So once we open up one of those questionnaires, we can see what's actually going on within this questionnaire. So as we open up something, remember the settings is going to change over on the side. So I can see under these settings, I get some options. So edit settings is just going to pull up the same settings we can pull up from the home page. If we want to add questions, we can go to the questions tab and we can see if there's any questions that were already submitted. Now I've already entered some of these questions, so I'm going to show you how we do that. There are 9 different types of questions. You have what's referred to as a checkbox, a date, drop down, an essay, a label, which is going to be similar to the label we've seen on the homepage of Moodle. We have a numerical question where the students are going to enter numbers as opposed to text. A radio button, we can give a rating scale and you can verify, in this case it's 1 through 5. We can have a text box, somewhat like an essay but more of a shorter form, and then we can have a yes/no option. So let's say I wanted to add another checkbox. So if we add a checkbox, you select the drop down, we can give it a name. Checkbox, we can say if it's required or not. So that's one thing different between a questionnaire and a quiz. Quizzes, this is going to be mandatory, every question. We can specify what is required and what is optional. We can say we need at least this many responses, and past this we don't want anyone else to respond. We can give the question a title, and we can give possible answers, and each answer is going to be on a different line. For a date type question, when we choose that, it's going to give us a name and a text. And that's pretty much it for this one. There's no specifics. We'll see from the student side point what the date question looks like in a second. A drop down box this is a drop down box right here where I'm clicking. This is what a drop down box is. So if we wanted a question with a drop down box, we could type in our question and then possible answers. Again, they need to be on separate lines in order to show up separately. They look like an essay box. This is just going to be a basic question, and it's going to give the student a box based on how many columns and rows you specify. So the larger this number, the larger that text box is going to be. Moving on to a label. Again, this is very similar to what we've seen on the home page of Moodle. So this isn't necessarily a question as more as it is directions for a following question. A numeric question is going to be where students can import numbers. And we can say, let's say if it was a zip code question, the maximum amount of digits would be 5 and the minimum amount of digits would be 5 because we want a zip code. It's not going to let them enter text in that case. So the next one is going to be a radio button. And a radio button is similar to a yes/no, but you can have more options than 2, and you can list them vertically or horizontally. A rating scale, again, this is 1 through 5, and there's nothing extra you can change as opposed to how many items it has. So if we want to go ratings from 1 to 10, I can change that to a 10, and it will give me 10 options to choose from instead of the 5. A text box, again, is going to be very similar to that label field we've seen. The students are going to be able to import text, but it's going to look like this does up here with the question name. And we can give the box a length with the maximum amount of characters they can specify. And the last one is yes/no. And this is very similar to the radio button, but it's either a yes or a no. And there's no correct answer in this case, which is why this is more of a questionnaire than it is a quiz.